Welcome back, everyone. I'm Don Cravins, Jr., Executive Director of the National Urban League's Washington Bureau. This is your Washington Update and the top things you need to know. President Trump was inaugurated on January 20th, and his administration has dived headfirst into their agenda for the first 100 days. Last week, the Senate held confirmation hearings for several of President Trump's cabinet picks, including South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley for Ambassador to the United Nations, Senator Jeff Sessions for U.S. Attorney General, Representative Tom Price for Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services, and Ms. Betsy DeVos for Secretary of Education. The National Urban League has publicly expressed specific concerns about two of these nominees, Betsy DeVos for Secretary of Education and Senator Jeff Sessions for Attorney General. Below, you will find a link to a letter outlining our concerns about Ms. DeVos. But as it relates to Senator Jeff Sessions and his nomination for Attorney General, let me just say this. Our President and CEO, Mark Morial, sent a letter to the members of the Senate Judiciary Committee urging them to reject his nomination. The National Urban League, along with our partner civil and human rights organizations, we've done a thorough review of this gentleman's record, and we found that based upon his past and his current body of work and his statements, he would roll back the hard-fought progress we've made in criminal justice and civil rights over the past 50 years, and particularly roll back the progress we made during the Obama administration. We cannot afford to lose ground now. Included in this newsletter, you will find an action alert with more information on Senator Sessions' record and information for you to contact your senators and urge them to vote no on his confirmation. Just hours after Donald J. Trump was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States, he signed an executive order to roll back the reduction in Federal Housing Administration mortgage insurance premiums. That was implemented by former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro in early January. The National Urban League strongly opposes this rollback, as it will cause up to 850,000 homebuyers to face higher costs and up to 40,000 new homebuyers to be shut out of the housing market altogether. We are currently writing HUD to urge the agency to re-implement this reduction, which helps hard-working Americans to access the American dream through home ownership. On January 5th, the National Urban League Washington Bureau hosted a panel discussion on the importance of Senate staff diversity and offered suggestions for how the United States Senate can improve its hiring practices and promote diversity and inclusion in its highest ranks. Senate staff diversity is critically important to having a Senate that works for all people. Senators can't adequately legislate on behalf of the communities they serve if they don't have a diverse staff or diverse voices at the table that can advocate for minority and marginalized groups. Now, since the panel, one African American chief of staff has been appointed by Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas, bringing the count to a whopping 2 black chiefs of staff in the entire U.S. Senate, both of whom work for Republican members of the Senate. As a former chief of staff in the United States Senate, and the only African American chief of staff at that time, I and the entire Urban League will continue to lead and work with our partners in this space to develop a systematic plan to attract and retain diverse senior staff to the nation's 2 highest legislative bodies. To stay abreast of our actions on this issue, be sure to follow us on Twitter at NUL Policy and to use the hashtag Senate Staff Diversity. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Washington Update. I'm Don Cravins, Jr. Thanks for what you do in and for the movement. I'll see you soon.